Good evening, everyone. It's Thursday, and still no food for the kids, no foods for troops that are on food stamps. And it turns out, a friend of mine, he and I served in the Navy Marine Corps together. He sent me an article from Task and Purpose that talked about how right now on Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, the dining facilities have been closed down. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know anything about the military, if you never served, if you live in the barracks, your only place to go eat is at the dining facilities on base. They call it the DFAC. So it's basically just imagine like your school cafeteria. That's what you have in the military is a cafeteria. You go to, you get some food. That's part of your paycheck automatically instead of going to you, the part that's for your food, it goes to pay for the dining facilities on the base for you to go there and get food, right? But right now, we're not paying our troops. And this base in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, out there in the middle of nowhere, troops don't have a place to go eat. Now, when I was enlisted in the military for many years, there were times I didn't have a car. Number one, I was deployed so much I didn't need one. Number two, when I was lower enlisted ranks, I couldn't afford one. And I lived on a ship. And so, we were always out at sea. I'd eat on the ship. It's the same as the barracks for the Army. If you're in the Navy and you're enlisted, you have to live on the ship. You have bunk area where you have four bunk beds high, and you eat in the dining facilities on the ship. And where does that money come from? Well, that's the money that would go to you if you lived out in town, but you don't. And it'll be given to you to go purchase and make your own food. But when you're enlisted and you live on a ship, if you're in the Navy or if you live in the barracks in the Marine Corps, Army, and the Air Force, then you're supposed to go to the dining facilities and get your food there. They say it's for free, but no, it really comes out of your allotment for food. It just goes directly to those dining facilities. So, Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, the 250 troops that live on base in the barracks, they don't have a dining facility. Now, this is just beyond ludicrous. We know that our king wannabe had a party down in Mar-a-Lago that cost $4.3 million. He couldn't have just taken that money and gone and fed the troops while waiting for Congress to open up again. Couldn't do that. He couldn't say, hey guys, let's put a pause on tearing down and rebuilding a new East Wing. I've got troops that aren't eating. I'm going to take my cooks from the White House and we're going to travel over to Fort Leavenworth and feed these guys until everything's done. He couldn't do that. He couldn't be an innovative leader. He couldn't lead from the front, lead from the rear, lead from right among the troops as a servant leader would. I know he could. So I looked up Hardin County. We've got Fort Knox. I say on Fort Knox, yeah, their dining facilities are still listed as being open, but the things they need to do to stay in shape, like their gyms, swimming pools, all these places, they're all closed right now, the MWR facilities. I already talked previously about how Hegseth plans on privatizing the grocery stores on base. We call them commissaries, right? So where are troops going to get their food if we're closing down a DFAC dining facility in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas? If we're also doing similar things in Fort Knox, we're not paying our gate guards. We already talked about that. We're not paying folks that work in the gyms. Man, This cannot abide. We're living like it's the Great Gatsby, and we just don't care about the poor. We've got our gold all around us, and it's all good to go. But again, that Halloween party, all those funds, they could have marched straight out, flown out to Leavenworth and really showed some real leadership and say, hey, here, guys, we're going to feed you while you're not being fed on base. Boy, you got some hungry soldiers. Something is wrong with your leadership. Your commander in chief is partying while you're starving on base. Something's wrong. And you can't blame this on the Democrats. You had the majority. You control the House. You control the Senate. You control the White House. Heck, you control the Supreme Court. So why aren't you doing something real about it instead of making all these play like you care things, putting lies on the page of the USDA where you go to look up SNAP? It's got a whole bunch of lies about why you're not putting it out there. Federal judge has ordered you to. These troops on that base, apparently they need SNAP right now because you're not feeding them. Do something. Come on, folks. Talk to your senators and say, hey, if you're not going to open up and vote on healthcare and on funding everything in this nation, at least get your illustrious leader to get off his tush. Instead of going down to spend his time in Mar-a-Lago, why don't he go spend it in Fort Leavenworth with those troops? Why didn't he come over to Fort Knox and invite everyone to work out with him, open up the MWR gyms there so they can get a workout on, show how strong he is. All right, y'all. Have a great Thursday. Love your neighbor as yourself. We are our brother's keeper. We are our sister's keeper. God bless your corazon, and please vote for me for magistrate, Hardin County, District 3. Have a great one.